My name's Mehdi. I'm actually surprised that a few people are here, like a handful of people, considering Vitalik is giving his talk in 10 minutes, so thanks for being here. I'm a co-founder and director of Sigma Prime. We are an information security consultancy, mostly based out of New South Wales in Australia. I'm going to talk about Lighthouse and Ethereum proof of stake. We can't no longer refer to it as Eth2, as you guys know. So yeah, the idea is just to give you guys an overview of what we've done over the last few months and where we're headed. And hopefully I can leave some time for some questions if any of you guys have any. Yeah, cool. So I mentioned this before. We perform security assessments throughout the entire blockchain stack, I'd say. We work a lot on Ethereum, as you can imagine. Some of our clients are listed below: Aave, Synthetics, Chainlink, and a bunch of people I'm sure you've heard of. But I'm not here to talk about InfoSec. I'm here to talk about Lighthouse and Eth2. So Lighthouse is our little baby, the Rust implementation of the Ethereum proof of stake protocol. It's been around since July 2018. I think the first commit is from July 2018. It's written in Rust, as I said. It's free and open source. Must highlight this, considering that not necessarily all clients are open source these days. And it's heavily focused on security, as you can imagine, considering the DNA of the company. We've spent a lot of time optimizing it for performance as well, so it's fairly fast. So I'm sure a bunch of you, most of you know that we have 4 production clients these days. So Lighthouse, a little baby, written in Rust. Nimbus, written in NIM, developed and maintained by our friends at Status. Prism, written by Prismatic Labs in Go, and Teku, written in Java and developed by Consensus. So unless you've been living in a cave for the past few months, you probably know that we've launched on December 1st, quite successfully, I must say. And yeah, it's been going pretty well so far. I put together a few metrics that might be of interest. We have about 195,000 validators. I think everyone roughly has made about, every validator has made about 2 Ether, I think, these days. And the yield that you would expect to generate from staking on the Beacon chain is around 6%. Started much higher, of course, and then the more validators we have, the less rewards we get. So about 93,000 Ether have been generated by the protocol, which is pretty cool to see. The participation rate is pretty exceptional, 99.4%. So kudos to everyone who's been running their validators. Just out of curiosity, anyone's staking on Eth2 here? Yeah, cool. Anyone's running Lighthouse? Hectic. Well played. Awesome. So those were cool metrics. These aren't as cool. We got 46 slashing, since the start of the Beacon chain. So as you probably are well aware of, the protocol essentially slashes, allows you to slash validators that aren't performing their duties properly. So if you can prove that there is indeed an equivocation in either a double proposal or a wrong vote, wrong attestation, the protocol essentially rewards you, gives you some of that Ether, some of that stake, and slashes the validator. So most of them, if not all of them, I think I'm only aware of one case where we didn't actually, where the slashed validator was like a hobbyist, someone who was actually, running its validator from its home PC, I think, and wasn't extremely careful. And what happened to them was that they actually run the same process twice. So yeah, the slashing protection didn't really help there, and unfortunately they got slashed. But everyone else, so 99% or 98% of the slashed incidents are due to custom redundancy setups, right? So a bunch of people are like, okay, I'm gonna customize my setup and I just wanna really have the best uptime possible, right? So I'm just gonna have this very complicated set of hosts that will have dedicated sort of failovers and things like that. And no, just don't do that. Just avoid doing that. It is definitely not worth the risk. And we've had one mainnet incident, as you probably may have heard of. It was a few months ago, and for about 18 epochs, one client was offline, meaning that for 18 epochs, one client was not able to propose blocks. So thank God we have, 3 other clients, so the network did not really suffer much from that, which is good. So client diversity is great, and this is what we strive for. Yeah, something to kind of be aware of. This is why we had a big call to the community to be like, okay, guys, don't all run the same client. Okay, this is very important. We all have a responsibility when it comes to client diversity. Yeah, so I want to spend some time talking about what we've done with Lighthouse, with the Lighthouse team over the last few months. So a lot of people can be like, okay, you guys launched the beacon chain. What did you guys do after that? We've been working, and we've added beta Windows support for our users. So would not recommend running that on mainnet yet, but if you have a Windows host and would like to take a crack at validating on one of the test nets, feel free to. Please raise any bugs that you may find on our GitHub repository. That'd be much appreciated. The other great feature that landed a few months ago was something Paul has been working on for a while, which is a massive, drastic reduction in our memory usage. That was highly appreciated by the community, especially for people running Lighthouse on Raspberry Pis and other constraint devices. He's done an amazing work researching the actual memory allocators and really understanding how that works at a very, very low level and tweaking that to our purpose. Another great feature was the reduction in Eth2 calls. So I think it was an 80 or 75% reduction in the actual Eth2. So obviously, as you guys know, we need a Lighthouse node and a Geth node, or an Open Ethereum node, or whatever you guys run these days. Yeah, Mac's done an amazing job at reducing that, meaning that you can actually now, not that we recommend that, but you can actually hit the Infura free tier and just run your Lighthouse validator and hit Infura without having to pay for it, which is pretty cool. Another great feature I think that the community really, really enjoyed was the monitoring with the Beacon Chain app. So I think only Prism and Lighthouse support this at this stage, but it essentially allows you to get notifications every time something goes wrong. So if you're run out of disk space, or if for some reason your CPU usage just started spiking, same for your memory usage, you'll get a nice notification and you'll know that you probably need to do something. Another important feature, I think, which goes back to my point of not running custom redundancy setups, is this, the Eth2 node redundancy. We allow you to provide a list of Eth2 nodes, right? And then Lighthouse will automatically fail over. So the first one doesn't connect to the first one, or you can connect to the first one, but you don't get the response that you want, you automatically fall over to the second one, and so on. You can actually provide as many as you want. I don't even know if there's a limit. Don't think there is, but yeah, so don't run custom fancy weird setups, just use this. Be much, much safer. You can do exactly the same thing with the beacon node as well. So you have a validator client, which is responsible for signing your attestations and blocks and whatnot. And the beacon node, which is the piece of software responsible for the networking, the state transitions, et cetera, et cetera. So in case you were worried that your beacon node would potentially have some issues, you can provide a list of beacon nodes. And again, we'll just fall over to the next one. Cool, so that's what we've done so far. And I'd like to spend some time talking about what we're going to be doing and what we're working on today. This is a great graphic put together by Trent. Thank you, Trent, if you're seeing this. You've probably seen this a lot during the last few days, but it is an amazing sort of illustrated roadmap. I want to talk about the Altair upgrade. So we're going to be forking the beacon chain, right? This is going to be quite interesting. This is the first fork on the beacon chain, and the main feature of this upcoming upgrade is the sync committees, right? So you probably remember that when the research team put together the Eth2 protocol, one of the design goals was to make it very, very friendly for light clients to sync. Obviously, we didn't quite get the time to do it right during the first phase 0 launch, and this is what Altair essentially brings to the table, right? We introduce a new set of duties and a new committee composed of 512 validators. And those 512 validators essentially rotate every day or so, 26, 27 hours. And they're responsible for signing block headers so that your Light clients are essentially able to verify the chain without syncing the entire state. This is going to be, I believe, a game changer for browsers, embedded devices, and other resource constraint hardware. So that's one of the major features, if not the major feature, of the Altair hard fork. The next one is a reform of the accounting, so how we actually compute rewards and penalties. It's meant to be simpler. The research team has intended for this to reduce the complexity of the spec. And one of the things that I think is pretty cool and to keep in mind is that we're now having the inactivity leak. So as you guys know, when your validator is not performing, you start losing money, right? But if we stop finalizing as a network, we all start losing money, and quite a lot of money. But obviously, if I'm online, why should I be penalized the same way as if another validator who's actually offline? So this is what the per validator inactivity leak introduces, which is kind of more, in my opinion, a bit more fair in terms of rewards and penalties. So as I said, we've added this sync committee. So it's a new duty for validators, and there's other small tweaks that have been done as well when computing the rewards. Another change is the update to the penalties. So it's I think Ben Edgington said that quite well. It's time to take the training wheels off, and we're doubling the actual slashing penalties. So you can lose up to 0.5 ether. We might double that again in the future, and we're increasing the penalties for, again, fully inactive validators that now can lose up to 15% of their stake. It's going quite well. We had a DevNet a few days ago, which went surprisingly smoothly. So we are hopefully expecting to fork the chain within the next few weeks. I'd be surprised if this doesn't happen before September, probably way before that. Testing has increased thanks to the EF research team, who's been putting together an amazing set of tests in the last beta. We've had 8 alpha versions, 1 beta version, and we've revived the fuzzing project, thanks to Patrick, who's here. And we basically try to catch bugs in the state transition functions. I don't have that much time to talk about fuzzing. You can refer to some great blog posts put together by the team to walk you through what we're doing there. One last thing that we are working on is weak subjectivity sync, and this is a pretty exciting feature of the beacon chain. As of today, if you want to sync the entire chain, it'll take you roughly a week, I believe, depending on which client you're using, give or less, more or less, I think 6 or 7 days. With the weak subjectivity sync, it's a completely different sync process. You essentially start from a known trusted beacon state, and you say, okay, I'm going to trust this. I'm going to just compute the hash tree root of that, compare it to what it's supposed to be, and say, okay, now I have this trusted beacon state. I'm going to sync up to the head. And once I have all these slots synced, I'm going to sync backwards and backfill previous blocks. And all of a sudden, it only takes you minutes to sync the chain instead of days. I believe Eth2 is the only client who has this running in production. Lighthouse is obviously working on it, so is Nimbus, so is Prism, so expect this to happen, to be supported in your favorite clients anytime soon. And obviously the merge. So this is happening in the background as well. Lots and lots of engineering work has to be done on the execution client side, so the Geth, Open Ethereum, etc. Side of things. But it's super exciting. This is probably the reason why Sigma Prime got involved with Eth2 to begin with, to say goodbye to these guys. Yeah, so as I said, I really wanted to make it short and sweet so that we have time for questions. Hopefully we have 5 or more minutes for questions. So yeah, hit me up.
So as far as I understand, after the merge, there will be two clients running side by side. Is Eth2 engine and Beacon Chain client. So what's like the view of the next steps? So are there any plans to combine these clients into single process, or
That's a great question. No formal plans yet. But the community really wanted a quick merge. So the quickest way of merging the two chains was to essentially have the two clients. There is obviously almost a decade of history now with Geth and their ability to deal with the execution side of things really well. And obviously we have the consensus side covered. But I wouldn't be surprised if in 3-5 years' time, we essentially end up with one client. We haven't really thought about this that far, but it kind of makes sense. It's just in terms of complexity, if you want something done quickly, that was really the shortest path to make it happen.
Yeah, that makes sense, but currently there will be two networks running side by side.
Absolutely, yeah, so you're absolutely right. Two different processes, so the Eth1 process and the Eth2 process, or we should stop referring to these as Eth1 and Eth2. So the Ethereum execution process and the Ethereum consensus process will be running on the same machine, even though it's not necessarily a strict requirement, but would strongly recommend running them on the same machine. That's the current vision. That's what we're currently working towards. But I think you got a point, and in a few years' time, we'll be hopefully looking at unifying everything and having one single process. Most welcome.
I have a question in regards to your answer to his question.
Sure.
You said that eventually probably everyone will consolidate to one client, but then doesn't that cause the same problem that you were saying that there was one client that didn't work for a while, so it's better if we don't have everybody on one client?
Good point. I wasn't clear enough. Okay. What I meant was we'll be merging the execution and the consensus side.
Okay.
Right, so perhaps Lighthouse will be working, and don't quote me on this, I'm just speculating, we'll be working closely with Open Ethereum because they're in Rust as well, so that we can come up with one Ethereum Rust client, and maybe Prism and Go Ethereum will be doing the same thing.
Right.
But client diversity has always been a priority, and I think it will remain a top priority for the community.
So within like Teku and Besu, maybe.
Exactly. Teku and Besu, Go and Geth and Prism. Nimbus has already an Eth1 client, so it kind of makes sense for them to pair the two and see how they can be merged into one single binary.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry.
First of all, great job on Lighthouse. I really enjoy using it.
Thank you.
Do you actually support ARM, like officially or something? Because like on the release page, there are no ARM binaries, and I just like kind of built it myself for that.
Yes,
is that a good idea or
no?
It's
really fine.
matter?
We've got plenty of people running Lighthouse on ARM devices, on Raspberry Pis and whatnot. I don't think we have binaries distributed for that platform.
That would be pretty nice.
Okay.
I guess.
Feedback taken. Thank you.
And I hope you also use the monitoring endpoint from the app.
Absolutely.
Nice slide.
It's been great. Thanks for the great work done by you and your team on that one.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot for your presentation.
Thank you.
Is a remote BLS signer a feature that can be used right now? Is that ready yet?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
When do you plan to?
Okay. So it's a good question. We've been asked by multiple institutions for that feature, and it's perhaps 90% ready. It needs a lot more testing, and I think the current plan is to have it as part of either the next release or the following release. It was meant to land in 1.4.0, but we prioritized the other features. It's just, the Lighthouse team is I'd say relatively small, though decent. So we're about 9-10, full-time software engineers working on this. And obviously between the merge, Altair, phase 0 support, and whatnot, it's sometimes difficult to address all the requirements that the community has. But it is a strong one, particularly from the institutions, and we've heard them loud and clear, and that's definitely something that we'll be shipping soon.
And regarding that feature, the EIP, I think you submitted, is that something which will be integrated in other clients?
That's
It's not
hopefully.
defined yet. They didn't agree.
I don't think we've had much talks amongst ourselves to standardize that yet, but as you probably saw, we put together an EIP. Herman worked quite hard on this and put together an EIP that kind of made sense, and I believe we collected feedback from great people like Martin and other folks from the Eth2 world. It's nothing crazy. Like it's hard for me to believe that people wouldn't converge towards this standard, because it's kind of makes sense, and it was really, really, really simple so that everyone could just have the same API. But we haven't had those conversations yet, to be quite honest.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. Cheers.